Welcome to Red Pill University. I am your host, Joe. I am here with Mike and James. And tonight we're going to discuss how to find your mission. Without any further ado, let's go ahead and bring up our slideshow. And as soon as I share the screen, we'll do a little death by PowerPoint tonight, as is our way. All right. So, mission report. So, he who has a why to live can bear almost anyhow. And I think this bears repeating. Just James, you're breathing into the mic, brother.
No, it's not
That's
me.
not you. That is somebody over on Discord. I will mute myself. Definitely. All right. So yeah, so he who has a why to live can bear almost anyhow. Any thoughts on this opening quote?
No, it's
Yeah.
spot on.
Yep.
Absolutely spot on.
All right. So what is your mission? You need to know where you're going. Missions versus goals. We're going to talk about this today. This is just kind of an overview of what we're going to discuss.
Mhm.
And then also, how would you define yourself? These are like the three questions we always get into with new members over on the fraternity, which, quick plug, we have started an actual fraternal organization. It's a blend of a college fraternity and a fraternal order, similar to Freemasons. So right now, we're largely organized online. We will start hosting in-person events just as soon as this COVID crisis is behind us. So it's, I think, $5 a month for new members. We do monthly mentoring. We do weekly show prep and after show discussions. You get all the material that we create here on the show, and then also offline. I think there's a lot of value to it. Do you guys have any quick plugs for it?
No, it's not just what we think about the value of it. We've got people just raving about, like, hey, I'm so glad that I found this place, like, to be able to actually have other guys to bounce ideas off of, and that's why we put this thing together, right? It's to facilitate the trading notes piece of things, and believe it or not, we get a lot of value out of having those conversations as well that we bring to this stream. So,
Indeed.
Yeah. And jackhammer the like button.
Yeah.
Crush the subscribe button. Let's go, baby.
And
Indeed.
That's it. Make it rain on that notification bell.
Yep. And then, as always, right here, drop your comments down below or over on the side if you're live streaming with us. And for tonight's show, always, we will get to the questions in the order that they are asked. If you don't want to wait to the end, just go ahead and do a super chat really quick. We will address the questions on the fly. If you can't sit around and wait, that's fine.
Yeah. If you got time for that, just throw some dollar bills at it.
There you go. So your mission. Let's go ahead and just dive right in. So I always make this joke, this quip. So if you stop and ask for directions, I'm out mowing the yard, you pull up in your car, you say, "Hey, Joe, I need directions." And I ask you, "Where are you going?" And you say, "I have no idea." Then I can't really help you get to your destination. And that's kind of what this show is about right now, this episode, I should say. So your mission defined, we talked about this in the pre-game warm-up, the pre-show. Mission defined, textbook, it's your purpose, your vocation, calling, so on and so forth. So we can right there dissect mission. This is a big question.
Let's dig into those three, right? So I think when you talk about purpose, and this is especially true for a career, there's something there to be mastered, right? There's something there to get better and better at, and we talk a lot about competence and how that breeds self-confidence over time, but really, you should have something that you're able to latch on to say, you know what, it feels good to get better at this. And I don't want to preempt too much of the content, but one of those pieces that I draw from in saying that is Mark Manson, incredible blogger, incredible author and writer. And he really has hit on the idea of, when you ask yourself, like, how does this feel good to be challenging, right? To actually go through and do the work and make it difficult to get better at something, right? If you enjoy that process, then that's your purpose, right? There's something there to be mastered.
Yep. And how do you master it? Well, you got to find out what your mission is. And three things you can do right off the top is introspection, trying new things, and then gaining life experience in general. For gaining life experience, in my opinion, travel is one of the best ways of doing that. If you go out into the world on your own, you get out of your bubble, get out of your comfort zone, you're going to see how other people live, how other people experience life, and that's going to inform your own growth over time. And again, it dovetails nicely with trying new things.
I totally agree. And the kind of line that I want to put under this and why this is so important is perspective. When you talk about this first bullet point of introspection, if you haven't experienced a lot of the world or gotten to know a lot of different people, then you don't have a lot of perspective on different viewpoints, different mental models, you haven't tried out different things, and you don't have if you're a younger person especially, you don't really have the benefit of time having, to be able to say, I can look back and 10 years ago, I wasn't doing this. And now I'm glad I'm at this place that I made this choice and I went down this path that I went on, and it took a couple years, and now I'm in a better place. You don't often have that perspective when you have very little life experience. Maybe you're in high school or you're in college or something like that. So before you're able to do really deep introspection, you're going to need to actually go out and experience new things and screw things up and figure out, hey, I think that's my mission, and then try it and realize I don't like that at all.
And there you go.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So
go ahead.
No, go ahead. I was going to move on to the next. If you've got a comment, that's fine. Go for it.
No, it's all right. It's okay.
All right. So one of the guys, most guys that come to the community that seek this kind of information out, oftentimes, I wouldn't say all of them, but oftentimes, often not always, it's because of some sort of breakup, or they got a girl they like, and they're trying to figure out, how do I make this girl like me? Mm-hmm. Well, they're putting too much focus and they're on the girl. They're outcome dependent. This right here, never make women your mission. I can't overstate how important this is. Your mission should be your long-term purpose, vocation, calling, what have you. It's not getting girls. When you accomplish your mission or you're well on your way, you're going to find that right there. When you build it, they will come. It's an old movie reference. So, yeah. And then they will join you on your mission. They will back you up if they've got their head on straight. That being said, they're still going to test you. Women will always test you. That's just the way it is. Go watch the Frame episode. That should still be up on the YouTube channel. If it's not, there might be a glitch. I'll have to take a look.
Yeah, I would just, again, like you said, it can't be understated. And I think one of the reasons why, I come at this from a married perspective, as I'm a married guy, but from a married red pill perspective, it is very much understandable to have a woman in your life because she's adding value. Like if there's a lot of value that a woman is adding to your life, absolutely, I can't blame any guy for having a woman in their life that adds a lot of value to their mission. But that's the caveat, right? Is they have to be contributing and on board, and at least accepting and respective of that mission.
Yeah. So we haven't sworn. Just a little offside thing, really quick. We've already been demonetized for this episode. Not even 10 minutes in.
Oh, really?
No idea why.
Interesting.
So this is YouTube being YouTube, I guess. I don't know. Anywho.
Wow, nice.
We didn't even swear.
Right?
Yeah, so, that's odd.
Moving on. Oh, too far. So how do your goals fit in? Well, I talked a little bit before where the analogy or the metaphor of driving a car. And to me, your mission is it's not necessarily a goal per se. It's a long-term journey. And going back to the car metaphor, let's say that your mission is going from coast to coast. Goals would be your waypoints along the way. That's the way I see mission and goals and how they intersect. So totally. To put this in a better perspective, you want a life of abundance. Well, how are you going to do that? The how will inform your goals. As you go through life, trying to navigate it and stay on mission, your goals will help you find out, will make you, give you feedback whether or not you're staying on the right course by either your goals failing or being achieved.
This is a common topic. Let's do this. Can you go through an example of how abundance mentality slots in here when you talk about putting your goals together and your objectives?
Well, now the abundance mentality is where you're outcome independent, because if one thing doesn't work out, whether that's a girl that you're the Tinder date, or it could be maybe it's a job opportunity. if you have a slew of job opportunities being thrown at you, and if you miss out on one, it's no big deal. Same thing with women. If you have a lot of women in your life, you've got this abundance mentality. When one thing doesn't work out, no big deal, because you've got 10 more lined up already. Could be women, could be jobs, like I said, it could be anything.
Yeah, you're less likely to not meet your goals if you've first of all, if you've written a good kind of goal in the first place, right? And use the SMART rubric, which is, I think, simple, measurable, attainable. I'll look it up.
That's one I came up with, which I stole from the Air Force because it was a good one for our fitness.
Yeah, I don't remember the 5. You probably remember better than I do.
So goals should be measurable, attainable, realistic, and you should have a mechanism for tracking
time bound. Yeah,
there should be. And that's part of being practical. You can't just say, I'm going to make $1 million this year, and you just now graduated high school. Probably not going to happen.
No.
But by the time you're 60, absolutely, more than attainable.
But the other thing they should be is, as you said, they should be tied to outcome independent. So they shouldn't hinge on other people's, they shouldn't hinge largely on other people's decisions or opinion of you. For example, you can say, I want to be a professional basketball player, right? And you got to realize that, you're highly dependent on that outcome if that's your goal, right?
Indeed.
You can say, hey, I want to be the best possible basketball player I can be. Then that's a little bit different, right? Because I want to play the game. I want to play the game well, and I want to play the game as well as I can possibly play it at whatever level I get to. That's a little bit different because then you are defining your own metrics for success, rather than whether somebody else, puts you on a professional basketball team.
Right.
And speaking of hobbies, things that you might love, when it becomes a job, I think Mike Rose talked about this before, and I got this quote in here because it's a good one. People that say, follow your passions and you'll never work a day in your life. That is absolutely as far from the truth as possible. Because if it's something that you love and you start turning it into a job where you need to rely on this thing in order to, survive and feed yourself, it stops being fun. It stops being joy. It stops being this passion, and it starts becoming a grind because it's a job. You are reliant upon it. So
you took everything about your hobby that you love and you destroyed it, basically.
Exactly. So be mindful of this when you're thinking about what your goals are going to be and how it's going to inform your mission. So, and I like your quote here, stop trying to be happy. Happy is unsustainable.
It's not my quote. It's from Matthew McConaughey. He had a really interesting video about, it's a very interesting inspirational video. And I think it was when he does a lot of talking at the University of Texas, motivational speaking for the football team. I think it was that, but regardless, it's on YouTube, and we can link the video in the Discord. But yeah, he talks about it's not worth chasing. It's a fleeting thing. It's a chimera. Right. You can't, you're happy for a few moments, or, and I'm not saying don't enjoy the present moment or don't enjoy being happy. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that you can't make happiness your metric in life because it's so rare. It's not all that common, right? Not everybody goes through life and is happy all the time. It's just ridiculous. We have this kind of obsession with happy in America, and most other cultures aren't like that. But I think joy is a lot better metric because it actually builds on itself. Joy and gratitude.
I would say contentment as well. That plays in there.
Yeah, just being okay with the present, being, accepting and comfortable with where you're at. I agree.
I will say this: if somebody's hopped up on something and they're happy all the time, yeah, it's because they probably belong in a center for someone. They're touched in the head, probably.
Yeah, I think honestly, those people, if they're not imbalanced, those people are usually kind of they're trying to make themselves happy, so they're projecting happiness in the hopes that they'll kind of get there. I think.
There's two different elements of what we're talking about. One is it's the chemically induced, which I was joking about. Yeah. But what you just touched on is really true because you see a lot of the guys that are really not happy and they project outwards. And a really crystal clear example of this, Robin Williams.
Yeah.
The dude was deeply unhappy. We later found out after what happened, but his projection of this big persona, bigger than life, happy all the time, it wasn't who he really was, apparently. We found out the hard way.
He didn't have this deep-seated joy and fulfillment.
Yep.
Or I don't know, all the things that went on with him, but certainly fame was involved and all that. But for the average person, yeah, that's a good example of, you're trying to outwardly be something happy, and you're basing it on other people's expectations. This is nice guy 101 stuff, and you cannot base it on that. You can't look outwardly and say like, I'm going to be happy because those people look at me and they see somebody that's happy. Well, that doesn't make you happy.
Indeed.
Yeah, and that's a good example of how your mission doesn't have to be like to be the most famous or the most successful or make the most money, because a lot of those people are just not happy at all. They're just not satisfied with life by any definition of the word. Your missions can be, you don't have to search your whole life for a mission. You can just find something that you really like to do at the moment and just do that. And if new information is introduced, or you find something else grander that you'd like to pursue, then you can do that. Recently my mission has been to surf a lot over the past couple years, and I just like to surf. I'm having a really good time, and now my mission is more like grander. It's to develop this fraternity. So that's definitely a perfect example of that case that I just described. A very, very small mission, but something that was fulfilling. And well, I mean, I will say, like, I am successful in other areas of life as well. So maybe that allows me to have those small missions that I can really focus on.
Yeah, what I like about what you just described here is your mission will evolve. It shouldn't change completely. Like you should, for example, James, you didn't just stop surfing all of a sudden because you were doing
Right.
this.
I didn't stop surfing.
That's what I'm saying. So you realize that, oh, there's actually another level of stuff that's even more meaningful. And that doesn't mean that drops out of your life. All that means is that you've become kind of more congruent in terms of every single part of your life that, like, you can say, oh, I like surfing, but when you're going out and you're doing other things besides surfing, let's say you also I know you like cooking a lot. I do too. So for example, if you are saying, hey, I want to become really good at cooking, I want to really get into understanding a lot of different types of foods from different cultures, or whatever that is as part of your thing that you like to do, you can look back and say, well, if my mission is surfing, but I also like cooking, then these are components of my mission. That's not the full picture. And you got to start to put that full picture together, which is what you're doing.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I would agree with that to some extent, but like it was at one time, like my mission to be really, really good at cooking, and I achieved that to like a level that I was satisfied with like looking at further effort and improvement, and looking at how that effort to satisfaction ratio would play out, and I just decided to go on to the next thing, having completed it. Really,
that gets to what I was talking about before with the contentment. You've kind of reached the end of that journey.
Right, exactly.
You're content with the outcome. Moving on. Did it not go? It did not go. There we go. So where do your wants come from? I think I stole this from Reddit. If I did, forgive me. I just forgot who it was because I had like 6 different things open. So your wants. So this is where you get to your internal versus externally motivated. Are these wants because you want them, or are these things that you're doing because society expects it of you, or you've been persuaded through, say, advertising, peer pressure, what have you? So think about this. Do I want this, or do other people want this of me? In a lot of cases, if you're younger, you might find yourself living up to your parents' expectations. So a lot of guys going off to college, they're going to go into a degree program because that's what their parents expect of them. Maybe that's not what they want to do. Maybe that's not what they're passionate about. So think about that in those kinds of contexts. Did I want this, or did some TV marketer tell me I should want it? Right there. This is a really good book for this is Persuasion and Influence, both by Robert Cialdini. I cannot remember how to pronounce this guy's last name. Really good books. I will update the description and drop the links down below later. They're both amazing books. And you can actually use this to your advantage, the material he talks about. And we've talked about it in the review before, where you can use it for persuading other people. Kind of gets into how to win friends and influence people. There's a lot of overlap in this community with these kinds of books. And it's really good information to know anyways, just so you know when you're trying to be persuaded to buy a product. You know the tactics and all that, so you're kind of in the loop. So do I want to own this, or do I just want to experience it? This is interesting. So rent versus buy, that kind of mentality. Will owning something make you happier versus just experiencing the widget? And maybe going on a vacation versus at a house and renting a vacation house versus buying a house.
Mm-hmm.
So this is kind of what they get you on. What are those timeshares? So you really need a timeshare. I was there one time. I did that whole thing. I would not recommend it. Personal bad experience.
I have this interesting saying that tracks with this perfectly. It's when you talk about, and this sounds silly, like really superficial advice to say like, oh, well, do you want to rent a house or buy a house? No, people dream about vacation homes, and like that's their mission. They want to retire. They want to live on the beach. When you think about where your wants come from, I have this saying that I say all the time when people talk about, I got a truck recently, a couple months ago, and people talk about like, oh, I would love to have a truck. Or the other one I hear is a boat. Oh, I'd love to have a boat. And I often say to them, you don't want a boat. What you want is a friend with a boat. Or you want a friend with a truck. Yep. Because you don't want to deal with you don't want to pay, like go out, go fishing, then you got to come back, you got to clean the thing. You got to pay hundreds of dollars in gasoline at least, depending on the size of your boat. You got to pay for the slip fees or whatever it is. You probably don't want all that. What you probably want to be able to do is either like take a canoe out on the river and go fishing, or you want to charter a boat, or you want a friend with a boat.
Yeah. And then we won't even get into the whole if it float, flies, or what's the the
car,
saying.
plane, or boat.
Yeah.
We'll get into it on Discord.
Yeah.
And this was a really good one right here. Ask why 5 times.
Well, we've already been demonetized, so
that's true.
It doesn't make much difference.
Not even 10 minutes. That blows my mind.
I don't even know how that's possible.
I don't know.
It's Google. They know everything already.
Yeah. This is the cleanest episode we've done yet, and they're already. It's just crazy.
It's wild, and this is the tamest one.
Yeah.
There's
I was going to think about appealing it later, but I guess not now.
What's crazy is there's nothing controversial about finding your personal mission. I'm not saying we haven't covered controversial content on this, but on this channel, but there's nothing controversial about finding your mission. This is the best video we've done.
You know what's controversial though? The fact that Google can lick my sack. All right.
Oh, geez.
Okay, so getting back to this last bullet point, this is another saying of mine is ask why 5 times. If you want to know.
Oh, this was yours. I thought this was Mark Manson.
No, yeah, Mark Manson had some other stuff that was great. One of the things that I think it comes up later. But I'll take credit for this one. Ask why 5 times. If you want to know exactly where your true wants are, again with the boat thing, like, oh, I would love to buy a yacht and sail around on that. Why do you want to buy a yacht? Right. Because I want to be able to entertain and host people on it. Why? Because I actually like having a good time with people and connecting with them. Okay, well, you keep going down that line of thought and you realize it's not the boat that I like. It's this idea of having a wonderful time with the people in my life and having this experience where I can share this with them. Or if you want to travel and you want to meet new people and experience new things, then that's the piece that you like. It's the dream. It's not the thing in that example. But asking why 5 times, or better yet, and we'll get to this later in the presentation, but having other people ask you why 5 times is super helpful to distill your mission down to what it is or what it should be.
Yeah. Neil Strauss actually, believe it or not, had a really good kind of like I don't want to say it's a psychoanalysis, but it's a distillation of what people's core values are. And it kind of it piggybacks on what you were just talking about just a moment ago, where it's the idea of something versus the something. The idea of something is much more attractive than the actual reality of owning the widget, especially when it's the 3 Fs. It's a lot of complexity that people don't realize. If you have a boat, like you were saying earlier, there's all those complications. If you're in a cold weather climate, then you got to take it out of the water every year. You got to pay somebody to store it. Mm-hmm. It's a mess. There's a lot of realities that just don't match up with the ideal, with the idea of what it is. All right, I think moving on here, because there we go.
No, but you bring up an important point. It's liking something versus liking the idea of something, and especially when it comes to women, if you like the idea of having a 24-year-old, HB9 that is your slave,
Sounds like a good idea to me.
That's what I'm saying. But it's the idea that you like. It sounds like a good idea. Now, I'm willing to bet that there are some guys out here that if they had 3 women dread maxed out of control, then they're going to get overwhelmed at some point. Like there is an unmanageable level of dread at some point.
I'd say there's an unmanageable level of plates as well. I mean, some of us have hit it.
It's all personal preference, right? Like I chose to have one woman in my life, not 5, right?
Indeed. All right.
Anyway, so
moving on to the slides. All right.
Yeah.
So this is one of the things that's really near and dear to me because I did a lot of training with other guys that were focused on social circle. And when I had the party bus, I kind of lived it. I talked about it before with the status. It's something you have, something you are, something you do. It was something I had, and then later became something I was by kind of becoming a minor, teeny tiny celebrity in our little area. Because people would see me coming from the bus.
It was a big deal.
And they would, yeah, it kind of was because people see the bus and they wave, and it's like it was a familiar thing that they saw, and it was easily recognizable from afar away because it was so ugly, but it was so much fun. And point being, so with this, build your social circle carefully. And what I mean by carefully is intentionality versus organically. Most people, you meet friends, you have similar interests, so on and so forth. You build your social circle through happenstance. Mm-hmm. But if you have some intentionality behind it, this is where you kind of get into professional networking. But you can also do this with just a generic social circle. And this is how you grow contacts. This is how you develop as kind of like a socializer. Or the flip side of this is influencers. They meet people through the influencing of others, and then that opens doors as well. There's intentionality behind what they're doing. It's marketing 101.
That's exactly why we're doing the fraternity.
Kind of
to
follow
build
up on that. Build networks. Yep. So for those that don't know, this is opening doors that you probably didn't even know were closed. So I'm in IT. Other guys in other industries. We can give you feedback on your resumes, for example. Or if you need a job, you can talk to the other guys who are in your industry. You network. These are going to open doors.
You name it. Relationship advice on hobbies, how to get better at them, advice about the stuff that we're talking about, how to find your mission, like troubleshooting, running dread, troubleshooting your shit testing, that type of stuff.
So exactly. So intentionality versus organically, we already covered that. Networking for business versus networking for friendships versus networking for lifestyle of abundance. Mm-hmm. The lifestyle of abundance is a big one for me. And I think it is for a lot of guys too, because especially if you're not living a life of abundance, whether that be with women, with whatever niche that you're thinking about, mm-hmm. it's that is the goal. That is your mission. That is your focus. That's your purpose, what have you. So start thinking in those terms. When you meet somebody, we're going to get more into this in a second. You're kind of stripping out the bad habits, and you're stripping out the non-essentials. So, and it sounds crass in a way where this person's no use to me. I'm not going to be friends with them. That's not what I'm saying. Just be mindful of the social alignments that you're creating and how they can add to or detract from your mission. All right. And if you end up in a situation where you're making friends and every time you go to do something, they are crab bucket mentalitying you away from your mission, probably odds are that's a social circle you're not going to want to spend a lot of time with. Mm-hmm. And this is where a lot of guys...
0 time.
Right. So a lot of guys who have social circles already, and when they begin to improve themselves with whether it be women, fitness, what have you, mm-hmm. every single time, and this is one that's an absolute certainty, you're going to hear it at some point. You don't need that. You're good the way you are, or some variation thereof. Why are you going to go and do all this work for that fitness goal that you have? Maybe you want to go and do modeling, or you want to do a competition. Why would you do that? Mm-hmm. Somebody somewhere in your social circle is going to hit you with that at least once. Same thing with trying to improve yourself with being more sociable, or learning how to socialize with women from a romantic standpoint. All of these things they're just not healthy for you in terms of the negativity. Why? Because they're not facilitating your accomplishment of your mission.
They're not constructive. If people are in your life and they're not adding value and they're not contributing, and I'm talking about constructively to what you want to do and what your mission is. I'm not talking about people that have your best interest in mind, that scrutinize your mission and go, hey, did you think about this? Like, I really am not sure that you are, if you're like a super skinny guy and you say like, oh, I want to go start powerlifting and I'm just going to like go crazy and start, I'm just going to get started and I'm not going to have proper technique. I can figure it out. I can look this up on YouTube. It's like people will say, hey, that looks really, or I'll give you a better example. Somebody who just says like, oh, I want to run a marathon. How hard could it be? And their friends go, you have to train for that. Like, you have to be really prepared to run a marathon. You can't just go out there and run, 27 point whatever miles. You can't do it. I'm not talking about those people who are constructively contributing and they're scrutinizing your mission. As far as I'm concerned, that's the reason to have people in your life that actually go, you know what? It seems like you're getting really bothered by XYZ, whatever I'm saying. Maybe there's something to that. Maybe you should really consider why you want to go just run a marathon.
Yeah, it gets back to the asking the whys versus the liking the result, not the thing versus the idea of the thing.
So I guess my point is just make sure people are contributing and that what they are doing is constructive to you.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, the way that people, that's not the way that people try to detract you from your mission. It'll be more like what the examples that Joe was giving, and it'll be more insidious and passive aggressive and subtle over time, like wearing you down, just like making you feel bad about it all the time, I mean, you'll be able to tell. It's super obvious, really.
Yeah.
You can't be subtle about it, really. You can just be passive about it.
Well, but some of the guys on this channel, you need to hear that because they don't have the emotional intelligence that guys like you do.
They will if they stay with us. They may not be there yet.
Stick with it.
It's a learning process.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I think the distinction is just exactly as you described. Like that is what you should avoid, and what it should feel like is, hey, this person has my best interest at heart.
Indeed. All right, we're kind of already have it. Time's flying. All right, halfway through.
We're off the rails.
All right. Friendships develop over time organically, but only if you take the time to nurture them and meet people to begin with. If you're always in your house, sitting on the computer, now you can meet people online. You're doing it right now through the fraternity. Many of you are. That's fine. And just understand that you've got to go out into the real world and meet people at some point. Yeah, it's just the way it is. All right.
The internet's not the world.
Yeah. So you can only do so much, for example, on Tinder or Bumble or Hinge, and then get yourself banned because you've met too many girls or not gone out with enough of them. Who knew our guys are actually so good at these dating apps that they're getting temporarily banned because they're gobbling up all the girls?
Who was that? Was that fuck all?
No,
we'll talk about that on the Discord.
One guy literally had like professional headshots done, and they banned him because they thought it was catfishing. It's pretty funny.
So yeah, we've actually had guys who are so successful at online dating they're getting themselves banned. Think about that.
Yeah,
that's our fraternity members who are kicking ass and taking names. All right. But yeah, in general, online's fine, but it's not the be all end all. That shouldn't be your end game, I would hope. Moving on. All right, making friends is important. We've talked about this earlier. Again, it gives you exposure to new ideas and perspectives. Like Mike was saying, it can fill holes in your perception of the world. That was kind of a recap of earlier. So large social circles are valuable. This is what Jared talks about, Adam Lyons talks about, I've talked about, others have talked about. Having a huge social circle with shred outs and different, like you're going to have different bubbles, okay? That's usually the way it goes. You got friends from work. You got friends from your family. You got friends you grew up with. You've got other ones who might be going in a direction that you want to follow suit in. Maybe you've got business leads. You start socializing with them. Maybe you start becoming friends with them. Now suddenly you've got access in ways that you didn't think about before. This is the concept that you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Ideally, the people that you're going to spend the most time with are those who are better than you. Because then they're going to kind of, they're going to drag your average up. All right. That's what ends up happening.
not only people that are better than you, but people that are willing to support you in pursuit of your own mission.
Absolutely.
So I say this all the time is like you should every person should have 3 mentors. Like without question, you should have at least 2 or 3 mentors in your life that are where you want to be down the road. Or you know what, you could have a mentor that's at your same level, but just gives you a different perspective in life.
Yep. And that's kind of
Right.
talking to the bullets before. It's the same idea. Let's see. It's not what, and social circles are absolutely instrumental to your development as a person. Doesn't matter what you're doing, because it's not what you know, it's who you know. What you know who you know will get your foot in the door. What you know is what's going to, like in the case of employment, yeah, who you know will get your foot in the door. It'll get you that job interview. What you know will determine whether or not you capitalize on the opportunity or not. So just because you know somebody who's connected doesn't necessarily mean it's going to translate into success. You still got to perform. All right. You still got to be able to do you got to do the work. There's no way getting around that. But yeah, having connections, having friends, they are going to create opportunities that you would otherwise not have. That's the fringe benefit of having huge social circles. And you can, like I said, you can develop these things organically, or you can develop them with intentionality.
Mm-hmm.
The main thing is to be mindful of how this process is unfolding, because that you can actually take control of the steering wheel and steer things in the direction you want them to go. And a lot of guys don't realize this.
If you have a strong frame, and we already covered that in the last episode.
Yep. So it's not what you know, it's who you know. Starting to change due to, this is the whole aspect of social circles were primarily through, or most people had relationships through work, school, and family connections. This whole
church,
concept
yeah.
in church, this whole thing is getting upended right now not because of COVID, because of social media. And I forget the actual numbers. We actually had it a few episodes back in the 100 series course.
Yeah, that's right.
It's crazy how much things have changed. I'll have to dig that out at some point, but it was insane.
It was the chart on how people met each other, like specifically couples, and none of them are meeting through church anymore. None of them are meeting through the traditional kind of avenues that you would meet people through, 40, 50 years ago.
And in terms of just general socializing, I was looking this up earlier today. Yeah, online dating, or online in general, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, it's skewing things again, just from a socializing perspective. Forget dating. So yeah, dating's obviously being affected like we just talked about, but it's crazy how much things have changed in the last 20 years. So,
it's so much easier to meet people now too. Like before, you would be like with these same people for a long time. There would be like real communities that you would be a part of, and there really wouldn't be any other opportunities to.
Yeah, you had your tribe, and that was it.
Yeah,
like 50 years ago, even that's like pretty much how it was.
Yeah, if you were
Everybody
from a
was
small
up your
town,
ass.
then you pretty much knew everybody's business in that small town, and that's who you knew. That was your circle.
Yep. Yeah, so I was just going to throw this out there really quick. So before we talked about earlier, we were talking about how things have changed to skew towards social media. I just want to put this out there right now, just so we're absolutely clear. Meeting in person still trumps meeting online. So try to capitalize on those in-person encounters, because you're going to miss a lot when you're online through tonality, subtext. There's a lot of aspects to the nonverbals you're going to miss out on. We've talked about this in previous episodes. So, but yeah, in-person almost always trumps online. Even though you might meet them initially online, you got to take these interactions out into the real world for them to really stick and be, firm.
Exactly. I met all your guys' moms online, and then we took it to the real world. It was pretty nuts.
If you wanted to come back, you should scrape it off your mom's face.
God. Well, if we weren't already demonetized, that would have done it, boys.
But guys, where'd the show go? It's gone. I don't know.
Yeah.
All right. So streamline your mission. We're getting into some cool shit right now. All right. What is the one thing that you can do to make everything else irrelevant? This is straight out of Tim Ferriss.
You talked about intentionality. This has to do with focus in a big way.
You got it. Identifying good and bad habits. we've said this, I don't know how many times, enhance this. Yeah. Focus on the positive, minimize the negative.
Mhm.
It's not everybody gets to be an astronaut. That's what it amounts to. That's yeah.
I have a different kind of, I have a corollary to this, right?
Okay. Mike's
And
corollary. Here we come.
It's this. It's the two most valuable things you have are your time and your self-respect. And if you're not spending those on, if you're not investing those in ways that are constructive toward your mission and ultimately the things that you want, your deepest purpose, the things that are really meaningful to you, if you are not investing your time and your self-respect in that, and what I mean by investing your self-respect is making commitments to yourself, right? Saying, I'm going to go to the gym 5 days a week. And you do that and you feel great about yourself because you promised yourself you were going to do it. You didn't tell anybody else. You just looked in the mirror and you made a commitment to yourself. And that is going to build so much self-respect, and you're going to have so much appreciation for the work that you did and the time that you took. And if that's tracking toward your mission, if you want to be somebody who's healthy and in good shape, and you went to the gym 5 days that week, you're going to feel great about that. And you don't need anybody else to tell you that you feel great. You just feel great because you made a promise to yourself and you kept it.
I want to piggyback on that for 1 second because this is something that I've learned as I've gotten older.
Mm-hmm.
So I can always make more money. I can never make more time. Time is our number one finite resource. Spend it wisely. All right. So identifying the good and bad habits, we talked about that. Minimize your detriments, maximize your strengths, and accept what you cannot change. This is that phrase. Not everybody gets to be an astronaut. Accept it and move on. Now we're kind of getting to the 80-20 rule, the Pareto principle. 80% of your success is derived from only 20% of your effort.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so true in life. And it's not exactly 80-20, but it's close enough. Let's see. And then, last one. And these are the final slides. All right. I promise, guys. We're right at the 45-minute mark here.
We're doing good.
Who are you? So you got to identify your values and then rank them in order of importance. Because the values are really, they're critical. If you don't know what your values are, it's time to buckle down and think about that stuff. And as you get older, you're going to kind of they're going to firm up just naturally. But if you're younger, say you're under 30, you might need to take some time and think about what are your actual values if you haven't really thought about it before.
They should evolve, right? My values evolved after I had, my daughter. You know what I mean? The things that mattered to me, and I realized exactly what Joe said, which is I only have so much time, and I don't want to waste it.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So, and going back to the very first slide, what is your purpose? Mm-hmm. It's time to do that gut check and think about your values. What is your purpose? What are your most important beliefs? Because they're going to inform your purpose, your beliefs and your goals, or your beliefs and your values.
Yep.
Those are going to combine and create your purpose. And
And I would also say, what beliefs are not helping you toward your purpose? What beliefs are unconstructive that you just can simply let go of? Yep. Right. I'll give you an example in this for the guys that haven't gone through and done No More Mr. Nice Guy and the Breaking Free exercises. Go through and do those, because when you talk about your deep-seated beliefs of, for example, if you can look yourself in the mirror as a nice guy and say, I feel good when people give me praise. I seek that. I seek that validation, that praise, and that attention, right? I'm actively seeking that out. If you can look at yourself and realize, well, you know what? This is not a belief that's helping me, right? Because I'm consistently driving all of my behaviors toward the things that matter to other people and not the things that matter to myself. And that's costing you your self-respect. Like I just talked about, you got to invest your self-respect in the things that are meaningful to you. So when we talk about mission, just to tie it back to the first slide, as Joe mentioned, when you talk about a vocation, it's something that you're well suited toward, something that really speaks to you, that you feel drawn to. That's your calling, right? And there's not just an element of mastery there. There's something deep down in your gut that when you were a little kid got you excited. And why did you get excited about that, right? That young boy down deep in your kind of core that you got to get back in touch with of, oh yeah, I remember what it felt like to be a kid and want to do this and enjoy this. You got to do a little bit of that self introspection, and nobody else can do that work for you.
Yep. And I think this kind of brings it right home with what is your mission? Often it starts with be the most. Be the most, whatever. So think about that. This comes right out of business. And it's something that we're kind of tracking to with the fraternity. And it's been at the front of my mind for a while now. So be the most what? What is it? Gets back to the values, the goals. It all combines into this statement, into this mission. What is your personal mission statement as an individual in life? So if you can answer that, you're going to be off to the races, and you're going to be so much further ahead of your peers in everything you do in life. But you've got to have a mission. You've got to make it not women, but whatever the thing is. All right. So I think we have any last thoughts on this, guys?
Yeah, I think we need to. I don't think that we. Maybe we did address this, but women are a lagging indicator of success.
Oh my God! How did we forget to
Such
mention
a
that?
great point. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
this is we didn't forget it. I remember it. It's a perfect time to talk about it because
Perfect.
women should not be your mission. If
Right.
women are your mission, then you're not going to get any women. Self-defeating your own mission. So first of all, it doesn't make any sense. You just have to trust us on that. And second of all, it's not fulfilling, even if you did do it, because like after you've had a certain amount of sex with hot girls, it becomes less good.
It's diminishing returns.
It wears out. It stops being.
Yeah.
It's lost. It's.
Yeah.
I know what you mean.
I personally could care less about it currently.
But I just want to add one last thing really quickly. It's that the lagging indicator of success. Richard Cooper has a quote that women don't care about the race; they just hang out at the finish line. But I cannot remember who it was that he was quoting when he said that, because I've seen this statement before, and it was actually
Right,
attributed to
yeah.
somebody.
Yeah.
I can't remember who that was. If anybody remembers who it was originally, let us know in the description or the comments.
Yeah.
That really has been driving me up the wall. But it's an absolutely true statement from a variety of species, not just humans. It kind of speaks to status, where this is what informs celebrity. This is why celebrities are attracted to women. It's not guys buying these celebrity magazines at the checkout counter. I mean, if they are, it's usually for a woman or what have you. But it's not something that really speaks to guys at an instinctual level. I think it's mostly just towards women.
I mean, here's the reason why we don't say don't make a woman your mission is because of what we just talked about, which is don't set your whole life and your goals and your mission up for what other people want and their expectations. And when it comes to women, don't make it like, oh, I want to give her as much attention and validation as possible. She's going to hate that, right? Not only is she going to hate that, you're going to hate yourself at some point, because you're going to realize that all of your self-respect went out the window and you prioritized exactly what it was that she wanted you to do. And sadly, like, this is where the red pill really comes in, is she will be unattracted. She will absolutely be unattracted. And here's why, guys. It's as simple as this. Women want a man with a strong mission. That's why they test you. They want to know, like, how serious is he about being, when you say, like, oh, I want to be the best basketball player I can be, or I want to be the most successful CEO that I can possibly be. How dedicated are you to that? They're going to test you for that. And by the way, they should, and you can't blame them for doing it.
Yep. And it's that statement right there. When you tell them that you want to be X, Y, and Z, you better expect that not just women too, but everybody's going to start testing you on that at some point. That's just human nature.
I was just tying it back to the why you don't make a woman
Absolutely.
mission.
Yeah. And it also, you end up pedestalizing women. When you put women on a pedestal, think about, we've talked about this before with the Prince Charming theory, where everybody wants to be chosen by the person that has all the options. Because if you're being chosen above everybody else, you're going to feel good because of it. You've won. You've beat out the competition. That's a very empowering feeling in a sense. So, and everybody wants to feel it. So whenever you throw all your options away and you say, you're the only one for me. Sorry, Mike. It's now marriage is a bit different. It's that's game on hard mode, but that's not what we're talking about here. It's just that whole concept of pedestalizing women is so bad. It's so unattractive.
And they don't even want you to do it. Like, they don't want it. it's just a test. It's like you just do it
Yep.
to yourself. They don't want you to do it. They
I-
don't
I
like
think
it. It's
we're-
unattractive.
And I think
No,
just for everybody that's
100%.
watching, we've all done it at one point or another. This is how we've learned these lessons. We've
yeah.
gone through the crucible. We've learned these lessons the hard way.
Look, I don't,
So, yeah.
you know, you guys joke about me being married, but the reality is like, I love my wife. I don't walk around the house kissing her butt all day. You know what I mean? Like
There you go.
she's great. She adds value to my life. She's a wonderful person. I love her. But at the end of the day, I do have meaningful stuff in my life that's driving me. And, you know, part of that is my family, but there's a whole lot of other parts to that, right? That are my career, that are things that are more meaningful to me, being a leader. And so the final thought for me on this is, you know, obviously leadership is a big part of my personal mission. I wanted to ask you guys if you wanted to share a component of your personal mission, kind of what drives you.
I've already said this before in the over on the community, on the fraternity portal. Mentoring is a big one for me. My mission in relation to how this all, with the YouTube, the fraternity, all of it, is so that nobody ever feels as frustrated as I did when I got back into the single scene. I'm like, oh shit, what do I do? I had to completely rebuild myself because I didn't know what the hell to do. And it was this lost feeling of isolation, frustration, grasping at straws. It's like a panic mode. Don't want that. It's bad. It's just not good. So if I can help others kind of power through that, or give them some structure to avoid it.
So they don't learn the lessons the hard way.
Well, there's that. Yeah, absolutely. That's absolutely a big part of that. The main thing, though, is just avoiding, helping others not feel that frustration I felt.
Mhm.
That's my mission. It's not a goal. It's a mission that will probably go on for life, you know?
That's an a really interesting observation. You should be able to do your mission for your life, right? If my mission is to be a leader, right? Joe's mission is to be a mentor, right? The U.S. Army's mission is to win wars. That is literally their mission, is to win the nation's wars. They can keep going on doing that as long as there's wars, which, you know, God forbid. But the point is, your mission should be sustainable. It should be something that carries you through your life consistently.
Yeah, a mission is not a thing that ends. That's a goal. The mission is your purpose that goes for the long term. This is why I made that the metaphor earlier. Was it's that drive you go on. It's that travel. It's the trip you take that never ends.
It can evolve, but it shouldn't really end.
Right. Yeah. Goals are, as I put it, they're waypoints along your journey. The journey is the mission.
How about you, James? What's your mission besides surfing? Which is
Oh,
awesome,
well,
by the way. I'm
I
not
said
knocking
it
that.
in the episode. It's changed to building out the fraternity.
Love
Yep.
that.
All right. So I think we have a ton of information to get through here for the comments. It's probably one of the more, there's a lot.
Love it.
So
Let's go.
Let's see if there's any good ones, because we'll just skip over the meaningless ones. How about that?
Yeah.
Well, right here's a good one.
And,
Frame. Was the recent Frame video taken down? If you saw me looking over here, I just checked. It's still there. It's
I don't
public.
know.
It's good to go. You may
But-
just not have seen it.
It's probably demonetized like this one, but that's okay.
The plumber. It's all about a diverse experience. A factory job is going to limit the amount of people you come in contact with. However, a job like police officer puts you in contact with many without travel.
Mhm.
Let's see here. And then, James, this was you, actually, sledgehammering the like
Oh,
button.
the
Yes,
like
thank
button.
you.
It's interesting about the plumber's comment. I have people ask me on the Discord all the time. It's like, Mike, how'd you gain all this life experience? Look, I have done so many different things. I was a bartender. I was a DJ. I worked on Wall Street for a little bit. I was a dishwasher. It was my first job at a bakery.
Oh, me
And,
too.
yeah, it's like I've done a ton of different stuff, and that it doesn't even begin to get into my professional career. But you get a lot of perspective. You learn a lot of lessons.
Indeed. Let's see. The mission should never. What's it here? Your mission should never be like Rush's. Just bang. Look at him now. He's drifting in life, searching without finding.
I don't think he's drifting. I think he is born again Christian, and I think that he's kind of tethered to the Christian lifestyle and spirituality and all that. I don't know that he's drifting necessarily. He's probably screwing that up if he's struggling with that. It's not hard to be a faithful person and believe in things if you truly have that belief. But
What I
Who
see,
knows?
someone's squelching there in the background. Is that James?
Yep.
That was James. I had to mute him for a second.
What do you mean?
Okay. Yeah, you were squelching there in the background. But kind of to talk about with the plumber here, this comment with Roosh. Now, I think I know what he's talking about, and I think I know what you're talking about. And I've seen him try to become the religious kind of figure that he wants to be. But what I have seen is his old life and his new life coming into conflict, and he's got a lot of cognitive dissonance to work through.
Oh yeah.
And that's fine. That's part of life. But that's what I think what he's talking about, and what I think what you're talking about can probably be best described as cognitive dissonance.
I can see that. I can totally, even in the little that I've read of his stuff, he probably has a lot of cognitive dissonance. And just for those, following along at home like me that don't have really the significant education, this stuff, cognitive dissonance is basically a set of ideas that conflict with each other, right? How do you resolve the idea that, in Roosh's example, and we're presupposing this, so we're not being prescriptive and saying like this guy's got a lot of problems, but the point is he has to resolve like how did I do this in my old life, and these are deep-seated beliefs that he had about himself and women and their value, and how do I now go down this religious path of really loving and accepting kind of everybody I come in contact with. And I don't know that may or may not be resolved for him. That's a really interesting point.
Yep.
My take on it is that he drifted there because it was just like something I said in the episode is his mission was women.
Yeah.
And like I said, even if you're successful at it, you still won't be fulfilled with it.
And this is the number one feeling of all the PUAs I've seen. They put women on the pedestal as their mission, maybe not as a pedestal per se, but they've made getting women their mission, and that's a huge failure.
Yeah, gaming women should not be your life. That should be a tool in your toolbox. Period.
Yep.
You don't even need game to be happy, to be
That's
successful with women.
You need frame and a mission for sure, but you don't need game.
Yeah, I mean you can be
it helps for sure. Not having bad game. Put it that way.
You should have game. You don't have to have game.
Right. I mean, you can just, if you want to just develop your SMV, women will just fall into your lap.
Case in point, we just talked about this earlier in the portal, where guys that have sky high SMV but don't have any clue on how to convert it into results. They just kind of luck into it. A good example of this is these big, super duper rich who later become celebrities in their own right.
Mm-hmm.
Bill Gates, Elon Musk, who guys, they basically become billionaires, but they don't have any structure to their lives. They're like what we call, you've ever heard of the concept new money?
Mm-hmm.
Same idea with new SMV. It's new to them. They don't know what to do with it, and they end up just going. It's just
their status goes from here all the way up, and
10.
they don't realize that they have as many options as they could possibly ever want, and they don't recognize that. They don't internalize that, like, oh, I'm a high value guy.
Right. They don't realize how many options they have.
I think a lot of them are in the matrix as well.
Oh, absolutely.
True.
And the conditioning like pretty much makes it impossible sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Like they'll just pick whichever girl they see first waiting for them on the finish line.
Yep.
And that's how it goes,
Yep. You had talked about this earlier, for sure.
Yep. All right, so kind of getting back to the comments here. So Red Squill, thank you for joining the community. So that's a great point you guys made about traveling. I had to move to another city and try new things and gain different perspectives before I truly understood my mission. I'm glad that you actually understand your mission. A lot of guys don't.
Yeah, it's one of the toughest things you can do in your life.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a lot of guys kind of just meander through and they waste all their time and then nothing to show for it.
Yeah, they wake up and have the midlife crisis and go like, what have I been doing? Who am I? And they have this identity crisis because they don't have a mission to look to and go like, hey, have all the things I've been doing, do all the things I do and have all the things I've been doing contribute to this mission that I have? If the answer is yes, you are happy with yourself. If the answer is no, you end up trying to buy the Corvette and get a blonde to ride in the passenger seat, and you have this existential crisis about like, what am I doing with my life?
And that brings us to today's bro tip of the week.
Love that.
So those that were on I had a slide and I forgot to put it in there, so I apologize for that.
That's okay.
Before we get to the plumber's comment right here, so this week we had a discussion, and it was basically when you are doing like online dates, a really good bro tip right here is to batch them all one after another, after another, after another. And what ends up happening is you give yourself, like, say, a 30-minute or a 45-minute block at, say, a coffee shop somewhere with a 15-minute break between, just in case one runs long. So what you do is you start, say, whatever time it might be. Maybe you got 3 or 4 dates. Line them all up one after another after another. If one flakes, no big deal. You got another date lined up in a little while. So you don't really waste a lot of time. Additionally, you're going to notice that you're a little out of sorts. You're a little green. You're going to get warmed up as that process goes on. So what you can do then is maybe schedule the more attractive girls later on. So you kind of use the girls as warm-ups earlier on. You get through the process, and then you're kind of in a social mood later on when the girls you're really interested show up.
Tons of social proof.
Well, there's that. It could also be social suicide a little bit if there's a lot of people in the venue around seeing it. Most of the guys are probably going to think it's funny, especially the older guys like me, because we've seen this, and it's funny. But anyways,
speed dating, do it.
You're basically speed dating. Yes, that's what it. Yeah, you're basically
speed dating. Like I said, your time is valuable. Got to get these. Got to get these in and out.
So, and the batching of dates was actually an idea I stole from Tim Ferriss when he talks about batching emails. You just carve out a day and a time, and that's when you do all your email, and you don't deal with it the rest of the time. If they're important, they'll wait. Same concept. But it's,
I see what you're saying.
It's out of the 4-hour work week.
I like to joke about stuff like this when Joe comes up. It sounds on the surface like a harebrained idea, but one of the guys on the Discord, no, it's not, and let me explain why. One of the guys on the Discord was actually messaging 2 girls for a potential date, and one of them was kind of non-committal, kind of wishy-washy about like, I'm kind of interested, I'm kind of not, and he goes, and I this is the advice I gave to him. I said, send her this, tell her I've got another prospective date and I need to know if you're in or you're out, because if not, like, fine, if you don't want to hang out, that's totally cool. I've literally got somebody else that I potentially could make plans with. And lo and behold, guess what? He sends that. He wasn't getting a lot of response from her over text message, which text is for logistics. They were setting up a date here. So he wasn't getting a lot of response, and I gave him that suggestion. He texted it to her, and guys, within 15 minutes, he got a response. She's in for the date, and he ends up going on the date. So that's an example of exactly what Joe was talking about, of like, have prospective options lined up for even the same day, and don't feel bad about that, right?
Yeah, and girls do the same thing. Maybe not in that kind of structure, but they do the same
100%.
idea. Same
Where
concept.
do you think we got it from, guys?
That's
Where do you
true.
think we got this from?
Yep. Yeah. So for those that don't know, that don't have women in their lives, didn't grow up with sisters, didn't grow up with girl ... friends, 90% of the shit that we're talking about, we stole from women.
It's what they do
So
by
if
default.
anybody's got a problem with anything we're talking about, take it up with them, because they're the ones that gave us these ideas. All right. We learned our lessons from them, seeing how women operate in this
A lot of these strategies.
structure.
Not all of them, but a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, not all, but most. All right, so getting back to the comments. So the plumber speaks. It's really hard to find a woman who is willing to be your helpmate. If you find one, she's a keeper, ... for a while.
Yes. And
Plumber.
2 things here. Like, the first mate captain metaphor is something that's really common on Married Red Pill, and I would like to see kind of more common on TRP, because all I see on the Red Pill and Reddit is just guys screwing up their LTRs and asking the dumbest advice. And it's probably because the guys that know what they're doing don't post that type of garbage, so you're probably getting selection bias. But that's neither here nor there. The other second piece I like about this is when he says for now or for a while, and it's the maxim of she's not yours, it's just your turn. And it's completely true. You don't own anybody. And when we talk about people bringing value into your life or not, the sad part is other people are fully entitled to evaluate you in the same way. And if you're not bringing value into their life, guess what they're going to do? They're going to be not interested in you. And that includes women, sadly. So, that's why I say, this whole, if you want to get angry about, the whole concept of, oh, don't get hung up on one woman, blah 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 blah. But the reality is this advice that we're giving works both ways. It's a double-edged sword, in that if you're not providing value to her life, if you're not taking her on the roller coaster of feels, if you don't have a strong frame, if you don't have your mission sorted out, or even if you're not even on your way to your mission, then you're not providing a lot of value in her life, guys. You're just not. And what is she going to do? She's going to branch swing.
Yep. All right. So Gian Antunes, perfect point about the job quote. The job quote he is referencing is, if you try to make something you love, your hobby, passion, become your job, it stops being a love affair. It stops being something you're passionate about very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
So work isn't fun, per the plumber speaks. If it were fun, it'd be called fishing. Think of your job as a source to trade your time to give you the ability to enjoy your free time to do what you want to do. I like that.
It's exactly what Mike Rowe talks about. Like,
Yeah.
get into something and start doing work, and then find something you like about it. I love that about Mike Rowe.
Yeah.
But there's
We had
also
that in the slides actually. Become
Yeah.
passionate about what you do. Don't do what you want to. Don't do what you're
don't
passionate
chase
about.
your passion. Yeah.
Yeah, don't chase your passion.
Like-
There's a whole video about it. It's really, really good.
Find something to like about what you do, and it's possible. It's really possible to do. I say that again, having started off my career as a dishwasher. Like, you can find things, right? You can find things to grab onto.
Yep. I take it back. My first job wasn't as a dishwasher. It was a groundskeeper at our church's
Nice.
cemetery.
I've got Caddyshack in mind.
No, Caddyshack Cemetery. I don't know. Oh, I know what you're talking about now. Yeah. So the plumber, a full life isn't about the destination; it's about the journey. Yep. Once you reach your goal, you become bored. Now,
Yeah.
again, the journey goals a little bit different.
A lot of
yeah.
people, and I think Mark Manson covers it really, really well in his blog, which is like, how are you willing to suffer? How are you willing to go through and actually enjoy the work itself and not the destination? Right. He talks about
his second statement right here. Human nature is to always seek new struggles. Yeah.
especially men. This gets into the way of the superior male, which is men the masculine grows through challenge. That's how we define our experience.
Yep. Yeah, that last statement right there. It's good for your mission to shift. It's always going to. Your mission should evolve and grow, like we talked about during the show.
If it doesn't, you're not making progress.
Yep. Let's see here. What's this one here? Finding the real why after the 5 times, you can already change the initial idea.
100%. It should that 5th answer should look different than the first answer for sure. When you ask yourself why 5 times.
Let's see here. What if I have a friend who literally never initiates meetups? I initiate all the time, but you initiate all the time, but he adds value to your life. Yeah, but it sounds like he's not finding much value in your presence in his life. So you got to make that judgment call for yourself. So if you're getting something out of the exchange, okay, more power to you. But you've got to judge for yourself: is the effort you're putting in worth the benefit you're getting out of it?
Yeah, I would be curious about how he's adding value. But look, if he is, then you might just have a friend who's a follower. Honestly, and some people are more comfortable just letting other people take the lead. Right. I'm
absolutely.
And that's the reality. Not everybody's cut out to just lead people to or commit to decisions or set the plans for everything. Not everybody's meant for that. So it may be is that your friend is super supportive of you. He's just a follower. I've got a couple friends like that, and they're some of the best guys I know, but they're never going to make a decision. They're never going to go out of the limb and be like, let's go do this thing and sell it to the group. And that's okay.
So I'm going to add us also. So being the leader in the group can vary from group to group. Some groups, people might be a follower. Others, they might be the leader. I've seen this in many different aspects of life. So also at work, if you're not the boss, you're a follower. But in your social circle at home or out and about, you might be the legal leader in your little social circle. So it kind of talks back to how we've talked about this before with status is fluid. So I'm going to get into it again. Just go watch the old videos. They're already out there. It's good content. Yeah, it's evergreen content. Go check it out.
Smash like, smash subscribe.
Boom.
Pound it hard.
All right, so CBLN, what value could a woman add to your life aside of money? Right off the top of my head, fertility.
Oh yeah. Look, if you want to have kids, which let's be honest, the common advice is don't get married, but if you consider marriage, it should be because you want to have kids. That's really, in my opinion, the only reason to get married.
Yeah.
You can't make a baby by yourself, last time I checked. But
And if you don't want to have kids, there's also femininity.
Yeah.
All right.
Do you suggesting that they go be a woman? Is what you're suggesting?
No.
No. I'm thinking more, urges and of a biological nature.
He's
I
talking
see.
about fucking hard, doggy style, demonetization style, baby.
Damn. Well, I've actually got a personal anecdote about this. Probably shouldn't surprise you that I got a little story here. But when it comes to adding value, I had a little spat with some of my family members, and I had a real hard decision to make as to whether I wanted to go to a family event. And my wife, I asked her about it, and I said, like, hey, I need your thoughts on this as a family thing. And she handles her family relationships a lot better than I do mine. So I said, hey, I need your advice on this. And she said, Mike, I know that you want peace and joy in your relationships. And I think if you handle this particular situation this way, you're not going to get the peace and joy that you're looking for. And that was really keen insight. So I need my wife for certain things because she knows me super well. Her judgment when it comes to certain things is pretty solid. And Rollo talks about exactly what Joe is getting at in terms of, I almost lost it for a second. I don't usually lose my train of thought. So control passes back and forth in a relationship.
It's
right?
baton.
That's it. You are not always going to be the guy controlling everything in every aspect of your life all the time. It's not realistic.
Even if
Right.
you're a commander of the squadron in a military or a unit, you still have to pass the baton of leadership. This is why we have vice chairs and all that shit. You've got to be able to delegate. You have to be comfortable as a leader to delegate. You can't always be in control all the time.
And when it comes to certain things, like, yeah, I totally respect and appreciate my wife's advice when it comes to parenting. We have a daughter. I absolutely will take into consideration and really prioritize her opinion on stuff like that. So could I be a good father on my own as a single dad? Yeah, maybe. But what value she's adding? She's making me a better parent. She's helping with the care of our child. She is taking care of a big piece of, making sure my daughter grows up well. That's a lot of value. And so there's my perspective on that.
So what is yours? I'm curious on James's thought. What value could a woman add to your life? It's where they went aside from money. My thought would have been aside from sex.
Yeah,
That's where most guys would go with
I
that.
don't know which type of girls that you're finding, but you got to stick with
CBLN,
that,
man. Those sugar
Sugar
mamas.
mamas?
Yeah.
Line them up, baby.
Line up the sugar mamas. Well
But
done.
what would be your input on this though? I'm curious.
What value? Well, I mean, it's just a good time when you got a woman who's in your life, and she's like, there are like different types of girls who will vibe with you differently, and if you've got a good one who you definitely connect with, it's just a good time. I don't know. Like, I don't know how to describe it. You got your frame intact. Everything's good. The dynamic is right where you want it, et cetera, et cetera. It's like, I don't know. It just feels good. Owning a woman's agency feels good. I don't know what to tell you.
That joy that we talked about earlier on in the show.
Yeah, I mean,
You like being in control. That's what's
something.
different. Okay.
Well, I mean, something that. Yes and no. I feel like owning a woman's agency is like the goal, right? No, of
That's a deep
Red
dive
Pill?
right there. That's a whole
Because-
other can of worms, right? Man, that's gonna be.
yeah.
We'll
Well,
get
like,
into that in the after. We'll save that for the after show. That's a really good
Yeah.
discussion right there.
I'm
what
pretty
does that
sure-
mean?
Anyway, but we can just just on the surface, I'm pretty sure that it is. So that's what I would say. It's
All right.
yeah.
We'll get into that. So we got some more comments to kind of plow through here. So
Great
Shasta,
From James.
so he makes a good point that this podcast should have been done much sooner. Technically, this isn't a podcast. This is a YouTube show. But for those on the podcast later on, okay, it's a podcast.
Yes, yes, and no.
Yeah.
Here's where I disagree.
Mhm.
If we'd have done this podcast or this video and this particular subject of mission earlier on, guys wouldn't have gotten it because we had to lay a lot of groundwork for that. And one of the big reasons why is because of what Joe talked about earlier, which is that, guys, you cannot have outcome independence without an abundance mentality, and you cannot have a strong frame without outcome independence. And it's hard to develop a mission if you can't set your own boundaries and do the introspection, which means you have to have a strong frame to develop your mission to an extent. So we had to lay a lot of groundwork for that.
Not only that as well, when we did the mentoring over on in the fraternity, so for those that don't know, I refer to our Discord server as our fraternity portal because that's what it serves as.
Mhm.
Eventually, this kind of a little sidetrack here. When everybody's having their individual chapter meetings around the world, the fraternity portal is where we all come together and exchange notes, memes, what have you, material, and just contact. That's where everybody kind of comes together globally to communicate. But locally, that's where they're going to continue conversations in their own sub-chapters. But anyways,
the idea is that we take that and move it into the real world, as you were talking about earlier on in the show, is like,
Right.
let's set up some communities and networks that are, in the real world rather than plugged into the matrix, so to speak, of the Discord.
right.
Yeah.
So anyways, as far as the server goes, we do mentoring on there pretty regularly.
Mhm.
And this video is an evolution of what happened there as well. Like we learned some stuff from as mentoring. I got a notepad over here just full of notes of different things we've talked about with guys. And like the three big questions are, tell us your life story. What is your mission? And how would you define yourself?
Mhm.
So the life story can take a little bit of time and it'll give us some insight into where you're coming from. And also, what is your mission? Most guys I don't know, they never thought of it. This is why we have this show tonight.
Yeah.
So you got to make sure you watch if you're new to the fraternity, watch an hour in. Yeah, watch the video. We're going to post this up in the community, so everybody should know to go watch this, hopefully sooner rather than later, because this is going to help answer and formulate some of those answers to those questions we asked before. And then lastly, how would you define yourself? This is one that catches guys off guard all the time.
So many guys struggle with these questions, and they'll have little pieces or little components of their mission, and they'll have these things that don't really line up, and it's just how do you sort those out? That's the tough part, man.
That's why we're here. This is what we're doing. So those that have these questions, if you haven't thought about it, if you need help getting through them, watch the videos. We got an entire 14 episode series of the 100 series content. This is now the third episode in the 200 series. And then we're also over on Discord all the time. So use us. We are here to help you guys out. Anyways, getting on to
I don't blame Josh Watt for that point. Yeah, could we have done the deep dive sooner? Possibly. Would it have been as effective? Probably not.
And
Anyway,
we would have
it's
had
irrelevant.
huge blind spots too, because like I said, and it's going to evolve. Our mission evolves. This evolves. If we do, we might loop back around a year from now and do it again. Who knows? Rose, welcome to the show. So she is answering. This is yes. We have women watch the show.
You got to send nudes. If you want to participate, you got to send nudes. I'm sorry, that's the rules.
She's actually one of our.
I don't make all the rules. If you want to participate, you got to send nudes.
It's true.
There's no girls on the internet. All right. So, anyways, so she was answering what can women add to a man's life aside from money, and she kind of talks about what I was talking about before: offspring, support, companionship. Offspring being the fertility, support. Okay, companionship that kind of touches on the fertility. Femininity aspect.
Mm-hmm.
So
companionship and support of your mission as well. Yeah, but companionship is like experiencing exactly what James talked about. There's a lot of joy of just having a woman in your life that you can connect with. Like relationship.
Companionship's not necessarily a deep enough answer because you can get that from a dog or a cat.
Yeah. What I mean is, okay, but yes, you can get certain parts of that from like a friendship as well. But let's be honest, like there are elements of having a woman in your life that are similar to a friendship. You're at the end of the day, you are sharing part of your life with somebody, right? Like Joe, James, the connecting and bonding that you and I have. There's some similarities there to having, XYZ woman in your life, right?
Well,
Ideally,
it touches on the concept. It's an old saying, actually, that we find behind every great man is a great woman. We can argue about the concept in the modern terms, but in the back in the day, you guys that did well had to have a woman at home supporting him, taking care of the kids, taking care of the house. This is generations past. So I think it's the same concept where for guys that who haven't necessarily made it yet, if they've got a woman in their life back home who is supporting them in the achievement of their mission and goals, then yes, there is that support element that she's talking about.
this is why we call it, Married Red Pill is on hard mode, because you have to stay congruent to your mission. You have to remain within your frame. Otherwise, it all falls apart. It just becomes chaos. Everything in your life becomes chaos. It becomes a lot harder. So you kind of have to. It forces you to expose yourself to scrutiny and use that as an opportunity for growth. It forces you to stay, I don't want to say on 24/7, but you need to have your, game face on, so to speak,
Yep.
in that respect, at least until it just becomes natural and you are fully congruent. And there's few guys that are, like, let's be honest, it's a rare thing to just be fully congruent naturally throughout your entire life in every possible aspect. And that's where we're trying to get to.
And it's tough. Like you said, it's almost impossible because things are always in flux.
Mhm.
So yeah, anyways, moving on. We got a few more comments to get through here, okay? So I am not in a furniture store. This is you always get this.
He just likes couches.
Small wall.
That's it.
All right, chess player. So to be honest, I had this problem I never initiated. Yes, this is kind of what we talked about earlier in the show with the intentionality. I think what he was talking about.
I think he was talking about friendship, but anyway.
He is.
Oh, never mind.
He had this
I
problem
have friends. No friends.
Now I have no friends, but I don't
Gotcha.
care. I would argue that if you spent time watching an hour's worth of videos on YouTube and commented on this, you probably care more than
Yeah.
you recognize.
All right, small wall. Every time I listen or watch, I get tons of knowledge and information. I really appreciate you guys doing this.
No problem, man.
Spread the word, man. If you like, thank you. We
Smash
appreciate.
like.
Yeah, hit that like button, hit the notification bell.
subscribe.
All that. You got it.
Tell your friends.
Privilege. It's our privilege
Yes.
to do it.
But here's the important thing. We always forget to mention this too. If you found this information valuable, share the video with those that you think could benefit. Now, some of our more contentious material, maybe not,
Oh boy.
but we do have some material that's evergreen that you can absolutely share, and I think anybody can accept it.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see here. Chess player says they add a hole to your life.
I'm not sure who he's talking about, women or friends or
Yeah, that
both.
can go either way.
It sounds like somebody hurt him.
Next.
And Gravity was thanking us. The last question we have for comment tonight, Blake, my mission is a bit vague due to lack of experience in travel. Would this be a good place to start? Or should I try to be as detailed as possible? Nope. Travel. Yeah. Travel's a good place to start.
Certainly, especially if you're a young person, exposing yourself to new experiences in travel is a great place to start. Because when you talk about this introspective work that we have to do, and you talk about what are my beliefs and what are my values, if you go to different places and experience different cultures and meet different people with different values and different beliefs, you will start to be able to sort out what resonates with you and what really doesn't. And it'll give you a lot of, that's what we talk about when we talk about perspective from a intellectual and emotional kind of standpoint of your beliefs and values, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And I mean, you don't have to, like, if travel is like not going to be easy for you, just do stuff in your area. I mean, there's tons of stuff that you could be doing. There's tons of new people you could be meeting. You don't have to like travel the whole world before you find your mission. I don't think you can start. You can just
Talk to
start
people
with something around, you know?
Like
Yep.
put yourself in new situations. You can do that. Yeah.
All right. So I think we've covered all of the comments tonight. We have gotten through the slides. So yeah, I think it's time to wrap this up. We'll head on over to Discord and do our after show. So again, thank you all for joining us. Please like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell. Any final thoughts as we exit this episode?
Again, mission is one of the hardest things that you'll ever ever do, and it should be encompassing of everything in your life. And so one of the things that we didn't really cover too deeply is you can't just look at another guy and say, oh, that's what I want as my mission. Right? Like not everybody gets to be an astronaut. Not everybody gets to be Dan Bilzerian.
I want to fuck that guy.
Boom. That's it.
There's a weekly. Oh my god! Every week, these guys
Can't do it. You can't. You absolutely cannot look at it and just be like, "Oh, I want to be Hugh Hefner," because you know what? What's going to happen is you start to go down that path, and you're going to realize like this life is not for me. 99.999% of guys are going to recognize like, no, I can't just be out on the yacht here with like a 16-year-old, right? That's not what gets me excited about life.
Not unless you're a oh god, was it Epstein's buddies?
Oh man,
All the politics. Oh boy, here we go.
it's hard. Don't just pick somebody else's mission and go like, oh, I want that, because it's tough, and that won't be helpful.
Yeah, your mission is going to evolve. It's going to change. That is part of life. That's fine. Again, use those goals as waypoints. They will keep you on track. We got an entire video on how to develop goals. We will post that in the description after the show. All right. Mm-hmm. So without any further ado, we are going to head over to Discord. We'll see you guys in a bit.
Later. Send me your grandma's phone numbers.